test you two.
Yep.
We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to JXE Streams. My name is Anthony John Agnello, producer here at Engadget.com, and today we are playing Invisible Ink. Tactical espionage. Notice, Tim Sepala, associate editor at Engadget.com, that it is not tactical espionage action.
No, because then it would be a Metal Gear game.
Then it would be a Metal Gear game. This is just tactical espionage, which I am ever so slightly disappointed by. Like, when I saw tactical espionage, I was like really pumped. I was really pumped, and then there's no action at the end, which means that I'm probably not going to get to see an emaciated skeleton man in a gas mask talk to me about how much I like Castlevania, which is a thing that I like.
So how are you going to how are you reconciling this in your brain?
I'm reconciling this in my brain because this game is made by Klei Entertainment, and I have no problem saying this in the air. I love Klei Entertainment. They make things that I really like. I really like Shank, which was a 2D action game for 360, and I really like Don't Starve a lot. I love Don't Starve, even though I'm terrible at it. And this is their new game, which they've been working on for a couple of years. You know, this has been in and out of early access on Steam, and there's been alpha testing and all sorts of stuff since 2013, and now it's finally out there. And if anybody is unfamiliar with Invisible Ink, it's actually like very, very, very cool. The premise is sort of, you got to think about it almost like XCOM. And so you are, like in XCOM, you are the commander of a group of spies. And you get two of them at the beginning of a mission, and you have, like, it's, you know, infiltrate this base, secure this information, rescue these people. And you sort of give them orders throughout it. Sorry, that laughing just came out of nowhere. As Duke says, "You just scared the crap out of me." In the middle of the song "Drain You," Anthony's voice comes booming out. I like to think that there are just copies of Nirvana albums out in the ether that I just randomly appear in every now and again. Does that happen with you, Tim? Are you secretly inside of any Nirvana songs?
I think I'm inside. Oh God, I'm trying to think of something right off the top of my head, and I'm failing, and I just don't want to name the obvious ones. So let's say I'm in Pennyroyal Tea.
Oh, you're in. I love it.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm just randomly in there. If you listened long enough, and if you have it on vinyl, and your record player is compatible to do so, you can play it in reverse, and you will hear me very clearly giving you a recipe for how to make the perfect omelet.
A perfect omelet recipe. First, you have to heat the pan to a perfect medium temperature. Hello to everyone who is joining us here at the top of the stream, by the way. Hello, Hoplon42 and Something Mimic and Duke. And Bill D. I haven't seen you in a while, Bill D. It's good to see you. And Nightshade13, I am aware that, unfortunately, when we do a live audio test, that an email notification is sent from Twitch whenever the channel goes live. Unfortunately, as Hoplon42 has pointed out in the chat, Twitch's email notification system is not perfect. It's actually much better than it was even just a few months ago. Twitch updated it recently. You know, there are many times where we'll go live and no email is sent at all. I apologize if the test emails confuse you, but I would prefer that a test email goes out than to have you guys come on and have our audio be janked up. I know that for some folks that's traditional. I know that it's traditional. But yeah, when it comes to the stream, we always broadcast at the same time. So if we're going to be having a stream, it's 3:30 Eastern Standard Time to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, the game. You guys probably hear like a little bit of a beeping. That is because Central is about to walk me through the tutorial. I have never played this game at all. So we are going to learn how to do this action together. And in half an hour, we're going to be so good at this game, Tim. We're going to know it so well inside and out that when James Lance, the designer of the game from Klei Entertainment, joins us on the line, he's going to be like, "You play it better than anybody. You play it the best."
One can hope. I mean, and then you have to worry about, are they just saying that because, you know, in our situation, sometimes that happens where you're playing a demo of a game or you're at a show and they're like, "Oh, wow, you're doing really well," because they don't want to tell you you're doing terribly because you're press. And it's like, oh, if we tell them they're doing bad, then that's going to negatively influence their coverage of the game. So we'll just softball it. But yeah, so maybe, just maybe, you'll be playing so well that we will get some genuine compliments.
So the very first thing that I have done is I have woken up this dude Decker, and I really hope that this is coming through in the quality of the stream. We are, as always, we are doing this at 720p because Twitch likes that the most, or OBS likes that the most. It plays nice. But the animation, the character animation on this first spy Decker in the lower left hand of the screen is so cool. Is just so cool. Let him catch his breath, but don't dally. Central, don't push me around. Central's kind of hot. Are you seeing this, Tim?
I am seeing this. Because I just started watching Archer from the beginning. When you say Central, I just keep thinking, Cyril? No. Where's Chris Barnes? No, not quite.
And my name is Cyril Figgis. I can't say the beginning of that quote. I can't say the beginning of that quote.
No. There are lots of. That's the thing I realized because I was like, all right, now that I'm starting to watch this, I want to start sending some gifts to people, and that's when I realized that 95% of the gifts related to that show are not safe for work. They just aren't.
No,
because
not at all.
That show is amazingly dirty. It blows me away how they get away with that. I know FX plays things a little bit loose and they allow things like that, but still it's like, oh my god, I'm hearing these things that I cannot repeat on this stream right now, and this is okay.
We have a couple of questions here in the chat. Lock 7 times. Any way to get into early access for this game? That's a question that we will be able to ask the designer once it is 4 p.m. and 20 minutes. In the meantime, the game is out on this coming Tuesday, May 12th. We are playing a review build that was generously provided to us by Klei, and that is how we are playing it at the moment. But yeah, everybody will be able to play it on Tuesday. I am going to now peek carefully around this door. That is pretty cool that is a maneuver. That's a really, interesting answer to the, fog of war sort of thing. Are you into this style of game, Tim? Are you a big, strategy XCOM guy? This is very XCOM-y.
See, I didn't play XCOM. I downloaded it when it was free on PlayStation 3, and just for lack of free time and a bunch of other means, I never got around to playing it, and I haven't gotten around to play it. It's a sin that I need to absolve. But this kind of reminds me of, did you play... What game was it? It was like a mafia game that also had a turn-based strategy element with it as well.
No.
Crap. Oh, it was really good. I can't think of it. It was on PC, and it was fantastic. It was really, really neat. You could set up your entire empire, and when you went to go take over a building or take over a racket, you would engage into something like this, where it was a strategy element. It was all turn-based.
Oh,
it was
awesome.
really, 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 really neat. And for the life of me, I can't remember what it was called, and it bothers me. But I really enjoyed it. It was really cool.
The secret, as far as I'm concerned, with this sort of turn-based strategy game, whether it's XCOM or Final Fantasy Tactics or anything that sort of falls under that rubric, and we streamed a strategy game that's not dissimilar to all this just a few weeks ago. We streamed Sid Meier's Starships, and the first thing that it needs to do right is the pace. It has to flow in just the right way. And XCOM nails that. Did this Mafia game you're talking about nail that?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I don't know. It's been a while since I played it. I played it for review for At Gamer Magazine when I was writing for them, and it was just, I don't know, it captured a lot of things really well. It's hard to remember because, like I said, I haven't played it in a while.
Oh, this is really cool. So I just knocked out the guard.
I see this.
There's a guard that got knocked out, and now... So, this is really cool. Proceed to the next door. So, you can knock people out, but they will wake back up. And if you stand on them, though, they're pinned. And so... Yeah, so I would imagine, like, when you're actually doing missions, this is just the tutorial. So when you go into, like, the actual field, you have 2 spies. And you can get more throughout a mission, I know that. And, when you get more of them, you'll obviously have more options. But I can already see, like, a cool strategic element here of having to be like, alright, well, you stay on top of this guard who's knocked out. And I can drag him someplace, but I can't tell. All right.
Can you put them in a locker or a file cabinet?
Yeah, I was like, can I stuff him inside this safe? But I don't think that's a good idea.
Maybe.
I can't tell how many action points it'll take to... All right, so I can steal his valuables. What do you got? Give me your money. I'm taking his $50. Array Knight, I stole his stuff, Array Knight. I stole his stuff. Promptly.
Do you have any idea as to what time period this takes place in? Like, based on Decker, I'm going to imagine it's 30s or 40s gumshoe-ish era?
So it's like, well, there's a sci-fi element to it, because there's, like, crazy, like... There's, like, you can see it on the wall here. If you can see where my cursor is, there's, like, a little computer monitor on the wall.
Okay.
All right, so he's going to wake up. He'll wake up in 3 turns. I get it.
And then he's aware that you are in the building, and I would assume he's going to come after you.
Yeah, we'll see. Because that's always, like, that's another thing. Like, you need to... Oh, close the door. Yes. All right. So there you go. Yeah, so if I leave the door open, he'll come after me.
Okay. Array Knight says to leave him naked and covered in alcohol.
I want him. You want him to wake up being like, "What did I do last night? Where have I been?"
Anthony, did you play the N64 version of Rainbow Six?
I did not play the N64 version of Rainbow Six. I would imagine that game was a graphical showcase with extra smooth controls. How right am I?
I don't...
Answer honestly.
Know. I mean, at the time, I thought it was really cool because it was something... Like, I want to get back to this. There's something involving doors. I don't want to lose my train of thought, but it was something involving doors. But I remember just the pathfinding was really bad, but I thought it was really neat because it was different. Because you had to plan out your mission, set the waypoints for everything. It was totally different from any game I'd played. And having only an N64, my options were limited. So I think I borrowed it or I bought it. I don't remember, but I played it. But the problem is with the doors, if you left any door open, you couldn't finish the mission because you had to... Yeah, so if you, by accident, left a door open, I remember I spent 4 hours going through a level trying to figure out what was going on and why I wasn't getting the win condition. And it was because I left a door open.
Oh, that's brutal.
It was bad.
All right, Goatrope says that the game places this in 2070, so that would account for the Blade Runner-esque blend of, like, noir fashion. And...
Also, Decker instead of Deckard.
Right. So, Taylor Belby, that's the best description of a Nintendo 64 game ever. Of course! Naturally. And hello to you, Naja Dorel. It's good to see you, man. Always a pleasure to have regulars turning out.
Yeah, it's nice to see Yodel in chat. Something Mimic. I'm kind of waiting. I haven't seen Zombie Batman in a while, and that kind of disappoints me.
Zombie Batman was hanging out for Wolfenstein.
Oh, okay, cool. He still has one of the best usernames I've seen in a long time. Oh, hey, Pepper Sandwich is here too. Awesome.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out... This location is watched by the enemy. But I can't figure out what is watching me.
The Watcher in the water. I mean, obviously.
All right, so... Open the door.
if Metallica is the thing that should not be ever taught us anything, that's it.
What? All right, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just end the turn. All right, nobody came out. All right.
Yeah, you're right. The way this handles the fog of war mechanic or the fog of war feature is really, really neat and really interesting.
It's really cool. Oh, moving into enemy vision is... All right. Well, I don't understand. Why can't I move there? Why can't Decker move there?
Hopefully you're not stuck here for the next half hour or in the next 15 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Wait for the developers from Klei to tell you how to get through the tutorial.
Okay, wait. So that location is hidden. How do I... Can I... No, that doesn't... Okay... Oh, this is cool. So now I'm looking at this character's stats. And you have 4 stats. You have speed, hacking, strength, and anarchy. Which is an awesome stat. And I guess...
Introduce a little anarchy to the mix, Anthony.
Yeah, letting Decker level up his anarchy determines how you can steal from people. That's pretty cool.
Oh, okay, I'm into that.
So
is there an option to leave somebody covered in alcohol and naked?
Oh, I see what's going on. All right. So I could only see a little bit of the room when I peeked through the door.
Oh.
But then when I opened the door and did the assessment again, it let me see enough of the room that now I know that there's a surveillance camera, and that's why I couldn't go in there. So use Incognita, which I guess is our AI, to access the power structure of the building itself, and that'll knock things out. This is really cool! This is a really cool game!
Yeah.
This is why I know that some people believe that it's best to stream a game when you have at least a cursory familiarity with it. I kind of love discovering these things with you guys.
Yeah, it's really nice. Especially, it's nice to know when chat can help you out. That's really, really, really neat. I appreciate that a lot.
Has provided you with Lockpick 1.0, allowing you to hack 1 firewall for 2 power. So I stole the power from that access terminal, and now I can turn off this camera. Very cool. Okay.
Camera compromised. Its eyes are ours now.
Yeah, that's our camera.
Yeah, we run this now.
Suck it, Office.
Get into position beside that door and scout the next.
This is what kind of hacking in Watch Dogs should have been.
Okay, so Tim, tell me about Watch Dogs. I have never played Watch Dogs. I have no interest in playing Watch Dogs, because when I saw that, even that initial trailer at E3 back in 2013, that everybody was like, "Holy crap! Look at this game!" I was like, I don't. Oh no, it was 2012 actually.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez,
yeah, that
man.
was the.
Oh my god,
that was Ubisoft's surprise.
Yeah, the big surprise after showing Far Cry 3. And its stunning nudity, they showed off that initial trailer of Watch Dogs, and I was like, why am I supposed to be so pumped? Because it just, there's something about the world as it's presented that just seems so dry. And, part of why this excites me is that, the aesthetic, as folks are pointing out here, are pretty damn cool.
Yeah. So Watch Dogs, I'm trying to figure out. I got to a point in the game. There's a sequence where you go to jail, and it committed that sin that a lot of games do, where it takes all of your power away from you for plot, and I really dislike that. And it was a forced stealth sequence in a game that had none of them prior, and it was super trial and error, and it sucked the fun right out of it for me to the point where I didn't play anymore after that. And it comes about, I would say, maybe 8 or 9 hours into the story. I might be being a little generous on that. I can't quite remember. It's been a year. What really drew me to Watch Dogs, I liked the writing. Like when you would hack into somebody's phone and you could get to know about them. That was cool. That was better than the actual game. I liked the idea that it was set in Chicago because I'm from I'm going to say the Mideast because we are east of the Mississippi. We're not the Midwest. Because I'm in Michigan, and Chicago is like a 3-hour train ride or 2.5, 3-hour drive away. So it's familiar to me. It was cool to see a game set in a familiar city for me. And that was cool. I liked that. I liked the idea of the hacking. I didn't realize, it took a while for me to realize just how brutally violent the game is, because with that cane that Aiden here has, it is intense. Like he goes off. The game had a lot of promise. It promised a lot, but it didn't deliver on those promises. There were shades of those promises, but it didn't deliver on them. And it's to the point where it's making me incredibly skeptical for the next game. But people are saying, oh, the next, this is kind of like the first Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's the Assassin's Creed scenario all over again.
Yeah, but I don't know. I liked the cell phone mechanic. I thought that was kind of neat. I liked the idea of being able to hack stuff, but essentially what the hacks were doing is you would upgrade your character and you could acquire more hacks. It was just giving you standard video game powers at that point. And it didn't really turn me on super much. And then there was all the drama surrounding the graphic quality compared to what that E3 demo was. And I would say that was fair and justified. But I don't know, it was one of the first next-gen games.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do want to say, Array Knight, I totally stole all that guy's stuff. Array Knight, you didn't steal stuff. That guy had $100. And I took all 100 of those dollars. I'm going to spend it on something stupid. I'm going to go out, I'm going to get like a pair of pumps. I'm going to get like a pair of Reebok pumps, and then I'm going to send him a picture of me in the future pumps. Just to make him feel really bad about it.
Or you could get the pumps and you could overpump them, so then the air bladder
They don't work. They don't work anymore.
Yep.
Take that, you jerk.
Yeah, because that was a real thing that happened in the early '90s. You could burst the air bladders.
All right.
Seoshan, I'm almost positive that pumps don't exist anymore. Much like the British Knights ratchet technology for strapping your shoes onto your feet.
Some BKs, they don't make BKs anymore. Actually, they do make pumps again. They brought pumps back.
What?
Remember pumps? They're back in POG form. No, but they're actually back. That's a thing that people actually did, which is unfortunate but true.
I mean, I never had the actual Reebok ones. I had the Kmart version. I had the Spalding pumps.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, it was a gimmick, of course, just like the light up shoes, and just shoes aren't meant to do anything except for keep your feet protected from the elements.
All right.
I'm not a sneaker person.
So this is really cool. What just happened was it showed me like the next step of like assessing a room, which is one of like the actions that you can take is peering around corners, like Solid Snake style, without getting spotted by a camera. And then I took out the camera, but now that guy whose $100 I stole, and we're going to use him on pumps, he's awake now. And like an idiot, I left the door near him open.
Oh.
And so I am interested to see, I mean, it's the tutorial level, so I can't imagine it's going to be too unforgiving, but I'll be interested to see if he follows me.
Well, I mean, you have to realize that this is also the tutorial, so I don't imagine that they're going to be super hard on you at this point.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. There's now, in this next room, there's an armored guard, but apparently I can just, like, sneak behind this table and, like, not get near him.
How does this compare to Syndicate? And not the EA reboot, but the original three-quarter view isometric strategy game.
I readily admit that my bona fides are not what they should be, Tim. I have never played the original Syndicate, much in the way that I had never played the original XCOM before playing Enemy Unknown when it came out in 2012.
Right.
So like that, the Western turn-based strategy game was completely new to me. So this is, I do, oh crap, so moving into the enemy's field of view is dangerous, but then how do I get into his, I'll just go up to him and shock him. Give me my action button.
Are you going to be the anti-rhetoric rock shocker?
I don't know if it'll let me like shock him. Because I think when you click action, the agent will melee nearby moving enemies during the enemy turn. So it's an Overwatch move.
Okay.
Taylor Balby, forgive me, man. So the horrible confession is I wasn't even a PC owner until last year. I was a purely console guy. Sowshot, yeah, this guard sucks. He is not good at his job.
That's why he's occupying the tutorial, because he's one of the low-rent security guards. He's basically a rent-a-cop. And he doesn't care. He's not guarding anything particular except for knowledge, the most valuable thing.
Alright, movement makes noise, must have full AP to activate, so I can't sprint. It wants me to hide from this guy, but I don't see how.
Maybe you could go behind that vase, or I mean,
oh,
the
no, I got
or
it.
the cabinet.
It finally let me. It finally let me. I got there.
Something Mimic says, the guard was browsing Facebook.
And Odenkirk, who I'm going to assume is just related to Bob Odenkirk. I'm just going to naturally assume that Odenkirk here in the chat.
Seems about right.
Yeah, it's a reasonable assumption, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm going to assume Odenkirk says that since the guard has armor, I can't shock him. Though the guard really is checking Facebook. He's like sitting there playing with his phone. Like
okay, so this does have a parallel to Watch Dogs. Because that's the thing is everybody, well, much like in life now, if you like just take a look when you're walking around or driving, everybody's on their phone when they're walking down the street. So, I mean, it fits in.
God, man. I don't know. So, if people don't know, Tim and I are not in the same physical location during this stream. I'm in New York City. Tim is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And, Tim, is Grand Rapids a pedestrian-heavy town? Are there a lot of people walking around all the time, or is it a driving city?
It is very much a driving city. There's downtown. It's one thing, but it's nothing like New York or Chicago I would say it's more like LA is very much a driving city, even though you drive for hours and get nowhere, just sitting in a car. But it's a driving city. Also, speaking of driving in Grand Rapids, Tesla, the amazing electric vehicle company, they just made their first acquisition. Last night it was finalized, and they bought a tool and die manufacturing facility here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
That is deeply cool.
Yeah, you can read about that on Engadget.com right now. We wrote that up last night.
Ladies and gentlemen, so I think what I have to do is I have to end this turn and wait for this guy to turn around again. Yep, there he goes, and now I think I can get the hell out of here. Yeah, exit level. Boom! Right in time to call James Lance from Klei Entertainment, get him in on this call. Wow, this game is super cool, man.
I like it.
Yeah,
it's neat looking. It's really cool.
I will readily admit, like, a mouse feels very good for this. I do wish I could use a controller, because I always like a controller. Mm-hmm. But I do know that this will be coming out for PlayStation 4 at some point. That's another question that we can ask James when he joins us in a moment. And then we can pick what difficulty I'm going to tackle this game. So everybody in the chat, please think about what difficulty you would like me to play this game on. Whether beginner, experienced, or expert are the ideal choices.
Hello?
James Lance, everybody!
Hey, how's it going?
Please welcome
Can you
James
hear me?
Lance. Yeah, James, I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent.
James Lance, one of the designers behind Invisible Ink from Klei Entertainment, joining us right now. James, your timing is perfect, because in the first half hour, it took me literally that amount of time to slowly but surely work my way through the tutorial.
Don't worry, that's a common time. You're good.
I wanted to steal as much as I could from guards that I knocked out.
That's a good motive.
Yeah, we kept saying that we wanted to make sure that we had enough cash stolen from guards to go buy a pair of Reebok pumps, and then ruin the pumps, and then send the pumps back to the guards. So they're like really excited. They're like, "Oh, my stolen money went towards something good," but then they try to pump them up, and the air bladders are broken, and it sucks.
It's just like
something good from the 1990s, 80 years before their life.
Right. They're like, "Oh, my dad always told me about these. I can't believe that the souls haven't rotted away over the past century."
Yep.
All
That's
right.
the meanest thing you can do to another human being, Anthony, I think.
just the worst. So Zurosuna, Kitsune, Nathi, everybody in the chat is voting for me to go on beginner. It seems. Would you pepper sandwich?
The difficulties in this game are not really super traditional. It's more of a Guitar Hero thing where you start out on the one, then you learn the game, then you go to the next one. You know. Doesn't reflect on you at all. Most people should start on beginner, even if you're a strategy expert, I would say.
James, so catch us up. Tell us a little bit about the history of Invisible Ink. When did it go into development? Where did the initial idea come from? Why did Klei sort of turn its eye towards this? You know, I'm sort of fascinated. Your guys' history in games is, you know, you're sort of working through all of like the traditional classic genres, 2D genres. There's platforming action with Shank, and then there's stealth in Mark of the Ninja, and then strategy with Don't Starve. So why this? Where did it come from?
So Invisible Ink came out of we kind of wanted to do an XCOM. We were really big fans of XCOM, big fans of Syndicate, so those are two huge inspirations behind Invisible. And we kind of wanted to do, like, what does it look like for XCOM to meet Mark of the Ninja, right? And so we used kind of XCOM Mark of the Ninja as a jumping off point, but we wanted to make it something that wasn't just Mark of the Ninja turn-based. It was actually, you know, it uniquely fit the turn-based strategy genre instead of just mapping on the kind of stealth we made before. So we used that as a jumping off point, and then we just ended up kind of going with, you know, it changed a lot over the course of its time. It started out as like a kind of mobile asynchronous multiplayer game and ended up as a PC single-player game, so it's changed a very large amount. We ended up with going with what felt natural for the turn-based genre rather than trying to shoehorn, you know, more traditional stealth elements that didn't fit turn-based.
So why didn't the multiplayer version work? What was not jiving about that when you decided to turn to single-player?
You know, it's not so much that it wasn't working as we just had a prototype of it. It was okay, but it wasn't the kind of, you know, lightning bolt that we'd wanted for it. And we felt, I don't know, sort of uncomfortable with the free-to-play model that mobile multiplayer had going for it. We were like, I'm not really sure we can make a free-to-play multiplayer game and still stick to our core values. So we had a hard time figuring out what to do with that exactly. And we decided, instead of going, you know, that path, we wanted to go a single-player path, which we knew we could make really good.
I am happy to admit that even just messing around in the tutorial, I always have that moment of trepidation before I play a strategy game for the first time, where, you know, like, is this going to be XCOM Enemy Unknown, where I start it, and I can immediately sit there and think, I can see the high-level stuff that I will be eventually able to do, but this is really simple to pick up and play, or is it going to be Tactics Ogre, and I'm going to sink like 60 hours into it and then still be wondering, what the hell am I doing?
Crusader Kings.
Right, stuff, wow, there you go. Those are some deep, that's a deep cut, man.
500 hours into it and still have no idea what you're doing.
Still no clue. So, like, what is the secret to that? You know, you said you realized that you could make the really solid single-player game, but what is the key to sort of getting there? How do you make sure that this is when you're making a strategy game, that it's able to sort of walk that line between very, very accessible and very, very deep?
Well, that was by far the most difficult part of the entire game's development. And if you had played it, 6 months ago or 9 months ago, whenever we released in early access, you would have seen a game that was not at all accessible. Very, very hard to get into, very overtuned, incredibly difficult to figure out how to play, and kind of sparsely tutorialized. So, you know, we've basically the last 9 months or even year or so, we've been working really, really hard to make it accessible as one of our major priorities. And it's just been tons and tons of different attacks, tons of iterations on the UI, bringing people in house to test, and then asking them like, oh, where did you think that button was going to be, right? So like trying to figure out what intuitively people think instead of making a UI that's internally consistent, making a UI that feels intuitive to use and is internally consistent, ideally. And just trying to see what people think is going to happen, and then figure out a way to like explain to them that's not going to happen in a way that is intuitive, and they'll understand like, oh, okay, this is subverting my expectations, but now I've got a grasp on it. And it's just tons and tons of iteration and bringing people in and testing and early access stuff.
So hello to DJ Yano and everybody else who is just joining us in the chat. If you are just tuning in, welcome to JXE Streams, everybody. My name is Anthony John Agnello, producer at Engadget.com. Today we are playing Invisible Ink, a new sort of stealthy strategy game from Klei Entertainment that is out next Tuesday, May 12th. And we are talking with one of the designers of the game, James Lance, right now. And I am about to play the first proper mission of the game on the beginner difficulty.
Exciting.
James, I said before when we first fired it up that like you guys really know how to tweak your audience's brain, because when I see tactical espionage next to each other, those words in conjunction, I'm immediately like, yes, I'm going to be hiding behind something.
That's true. I have to hear that.
I'm curious, how do you balance when you're going through a game making like sort of callbacks and references to other things, but make it so it's not cloying and overwhelming, because you don't want to be like the guy who's just referencing things all the time and not having an original thought. And like I like how Invisible Ink wears its inspirations on its sleeve. There's obviously a whole lot of Blade Runner going on. Like the very first thing you see in the game is a dude in a trench coat and his name is Decker. Yep. That's very specific. And you have that little tactical espionage that calls back to Metal Gear, and then the style of the game calls back to Syndicate and XCOM. But how do you sort of nail that stuff? How do you make sure that you maintain a feeling of originality while still making it enticingly familiar for people?
Yeah, once we decided that we were going to make a turn-based strategy stealth game, and it was going to be turn-based stealth, it wasn't going to be real-time stealth mapped onto this thing. It was actually going to be like, we're going to try to make the mechanics from scratch and kind of like inspire ourselves by stealth games, but really make something that fits in turn-based. At that point, there was so much to it that had to be original, that had to be homegrown, that really whenever we inserted those kind of references to the things we loved, and also references to the things we were inspired by, they sort of felt, it was easy to make enough stuff that wasn't super inspired or wasn't taken from other places, because we had this whole original system, and it demanded a certain amount of original story and original content. And even when we were like, oh, I want to sneak a reference in there, I want to sneak a reference in there, we were never able to like fill it up to the point where we were super worried about it becoming cloying.
So there is a lot of chatter here in the chat. People are wondering what version of the game we are playing. This is the PC edition of the game. And it's going to be PC, Mac, and Linux next week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then PlayStation 4 at some undetermined point in the future.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
We're porting it now.
James, I want you to prepare all of your stock PR answers. Get them ready.
Okay.
I want. We're always exploring new platforms. We have nothing to announce now. I want the whole gamut.
Oh,
comment on rumors and speculation.
I've got a big sheet of paper in front of me.
Yeah, all right. So just get ready to just rattle them off. And end every single one, but we're really excited about the community.
Yeah. We're a small company. I can say whatever I want.
That's true. That's true. All right. So can you confirm or deny that there will be a version for the Bandai WonderSwan? Will we? Is that?
I literally don't know what that is.
What about the Nokia N-Gage? Is that still a viable platform for you guys?
Yes. We're simul-releasing on the N-Gage in addition to...
Yes!
everything else, you know.
Everybody get psyched. I will. In all seriousness, is there, is the PlayStation 4 version part of an exclusivity agreement? Will there be opportunities for Invisible Ink to jump to other unnamed platforms at a later date?
I actually don't know if we. I don't really get involved in the business stuff that much. I'm not sure if we have an exclusivity agreement. I'm pretty sure we don't.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't know. I think PS4 for us just makes a lot of sense because, Sony PS4 fan base is good with strategy games, and we've shipped Don't Starve. I think went to the PS4 before, so we're very
early
used to it.
2014. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a port that we're familiar with, and we like Sony. We like working with them. So I think that was the main reason for us going to PS4 as opposed to anything else. And we'll just see. I mean, I don't know. It'll like fully depend on how popular the PC version and PS4 versions are, right? We'll see if people really like it and want more of this, or whatever. If we should make different games instead, or how many people we should put on these things, right?
I will tell you flat out right now that I would play the shit out of this on a PS Vita. I would just do that for days. And it's funny if anybody is wondering, this is a keyboard and mouse setup. It doesn't seem that there's controller support in this version. Is that correct, James?
Yeah, no controller support when we launch. But ideally, as we develop the PS4, so we don't like have in-house controller support right now. We're not using controllers. But ideally, as we develop the PS4 version, we'll be figuring out all those problems that come with controller support, and then, at a certain point, we'll bring that to PC, right? Once we have it figured out for PS4, we'll be able to figure out that mapping for PC or whatever. As we solve those problems, hopefully we'll be able to provide controller support for PC.
All right, so this is a new element that I'm just facing here. The security level is going to start increasing, and that makes me deeply nervous. What will trigger the security level going up? Is it the sort of stuff that I expect it to be, like being seen? Or...
Yeah, it's that stuff, and it also just goes up one per turn.
Oh, just one. Oh god. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not stressful.
So that is something you can, if you don't like that, you can turn it off in the campaign generation options. But the game is much better with it on. I highly recommend having it there.
Come on, James.
Because I mean, basically the idea is that we wanted to, the game is a roguelike, and if you can stay on the levels for forever and have no penalty, it doesn't really work. There's no sense of risk and reward. It's just all reward. So we wanted to keep that sense of risk and reward. So we have this kind of thing that's pushing you along and keeping you interested. But ideally, since it's a turn-based game, you don't feel too rushed. You can just sit there for a while and it won't do anything.
Man, now I feel, for a moment, I was like, maybe I'll turn it off. Just for the sake of the stream, I'll turn it off, and, it'll be nice and easy the entire time, but I want that feeling of actually doing this really well. And hopefully we can actually
stream streams like to watch you fail. Don't worry.
I was just going to say it's going to be a whole lot more enjoyable if I actually mess up in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
And now I'm going to steal this hapless guard's cash money because he shouldn't have been carrying around 90 credits. He should not have been carrying around 90 credits. And now
that's Pump's money right there.
That's Pump's money. Done. All right, Venom's Carnage in the chat. Hey, is my man Nels there? Or did he work on this game? He works at Klei.
Nels is not here. He does not work at Klei anymore. He works at Campo Santo now. He's making an excellent-looking game called Firewatch, which is one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen in my life. No, he worked on Mark the Ninja, and then he went to go make Firewatch at Campo Santo. But he does live. I can go grab him. I can see his apartment from here, basically.
Just drag him over. Yeah. Yeah, send him Morse code with your phone's flash.
Someone
that works.
on Twitch chat knows you.
Oh no! I just did something deeply stupid. I hit rewind, thinking that it would allow me to rewind one move, and that is not what happened. I've reset the level.
Oh no! It does rewind. It rewinds one turn, but you've only taken one turn.
But I've only taken one full turn. Yeah. So
it's
everybody.
Fine. Now you can...
Yeah, I'm gonna do it really fast now. Like super fast. I know what's going on. I know where everybody is. Bust in here, incognita, firewall. See,
Boom.
it's actually amazing how quickly you can do everything sort of once you have a plan. And that's very much something that Tim and I were talking about at the top of the show, which is pacing. And how like a strategy game sort of lives and dies by nailing its pace down.
Yeah.
And so when you guys were going through, you said, a year ago when this was in early access, or 9 months ago when this was in early access, it was a much more different game. So
Yeah.
what was the flow of the game like at that point, and how much has it changed?
Well, there were a couple of big changes. There was sort of an overall flow change. Originally, the game was sort of Dread style, like you were moving up a giant corporate building,
Ooh, cool.
fighting everyone on the way there. And it was cool, but we found it felt too much like a dungeon crawler. Like it was too much of a callback to roguelikes, and it was also, it kind of kept you like, the game is already super stressful,
Right.
And it kind of like that. It had the feeling of like constant stress that you were never ever escaping. You never had a moment to breathe. So we ended up removing that for pacing reasons, and also from community feedback, and going more towards this kind of jet-setting espionage overlay, or overworld, I should say. And there's some smaller pacing changes. Something you might notice is that, like, it doesn't make that much sense if you think about it, but it's for pacing reasons. So, like, peeking through a door costs an action point, but opening a door doesn't.
Yeah, okay. So this is exactly the sort of stuff that I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Why the hell is that the case? I find that fascinating.
Because we tried it every possible way, and this is the way it feels the best by far.
Huh.
The real reason is that
okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
All I was gonna say was like, how that seems so counterintuitive to me.
Mm-hmm.
That moment of saying like, oh well, this is what feels the best.
Yeah.
But how do you get to that moment where you say let's break our own rules. Let's not be consistent because it'll be better if we don't stay consistent.
So to get into the design behind it, basically what it is that if you run up to a door and you've got no action points left, so you're making your move, right? You run up to a door, you've got 0 action points, and now you can't interact with it, and there's a guard who's going to catch you on the other side. And that's like a really, really frustrating moment in the game. And it makes you like stop, and now you have to suddenly calculate your action points every single move, right? You're like worried every single move. You're like, am I going to have enough action points to get up to this door and close it? So it makes the game a lot slower. It makes it a lot more stressful because this huge important thing requires you to calculate ahead of time every single move. Whereas peeking, it's just really, it's like a courtesy action. So it's an interesting cost reward to have it cost an action point, but it's never going to like lose you the game to not peek, whereas it will lose you the game to not close a door, right? So that was sort of like, if you leave doors as costing an action point to open and close, then it makes the game a lot slower because now you're forcing players to constantly be doing number crunching, basically. And we didn't want players to do number crunching. We wanted more of an intuitive, feel-based game, right? So there is some number crunching if you want it, but you don't have to because you can walk up to the door and close it. So that was sort of the design mentality behind it.
So if I was playing this on an expert difficulty level, would there be more number crunching? Would I really have to be like sitting there and thinking about what the character's stats are first, and planning out my moves? Because right now I'm just sort of playing intuitively. I'm just like, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
I would say there's never really a lot of number crunching in this game, but there does planning does become a lot more important in the harder difficulties. You have fewer rewinds, you have fewer other stuff. Everything's a little bit tougher, so number crunching is not there, but definitely planning a turn ahead is there. Kind of like a chess style, like, I have to think out my next move as well,
Something Mimic points out in chat, he says that the reason why peeking through a door costs AP is because nobody likes peeping Toms.
I love that.
He's figured us out. All our highfalutin design talk for nothing.
We're getting down into the nitty-gritty of that sort of thing.
Down to the real stuff.
So earlier in the conversation, we were talking about how you guys have kind of run the gamut of the 2D design or 2D genres. And something that one Duke XX1.
Oh, that's just Duke. Just call him Duke.
Okay. He wanted to know if you guys have considered working on a Shining Force style RPG.
Shining Force is like it's like a Final Fantasy Tactics style thing, right? Like you're running around, you've got
sorta. I would say a closer analog is a Fire Emblem if you've ever played.
Oh, okay.
And there's
Chroma Squad just came out, right?
It's a duck that changes forms over the course of the game. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Have you guys seen this game Chroma Squad that came out recently? It's like a Power Ranger style game.
No.
I think that's kind of Shining Force-y. But to answer the question, yeah, we've had a couple prototypes in house that have had Shining Force style, Fire Emblem style mechanics. And they were just like 1 week projects or whatever. We're just banging them out to see like, oh, is this fun? And we liked them, but I think we're more interested in other directions right now. And I don't know if we're going to do another tactics game after this for a little bit. It's definitely not our immediate focus.
What is Klei's process for deciding what project you want to work on? I mean, you guys also work at an incredibly swift pace. Like, Don't Starve Together was sort of like, oh, everybody says multiplayer Don't Starve would be fun. Let's just do that. And, there's that alpha version of it out within months of that decision. So how do you say what is sort of that iterative process for you guys where you say this is what we want to work on, this is when we want to be able to have something playable, and this is when we want like a final product out?
We're a flat company, so we don't have producers or anything, so it's very organic. And that has positives and negatives. It means that we have there's no like scripted way that we start up a new game, so sometimes it can be, the organic process can take a while and be kind of confusing and lead to stuff that gets thrown away a lot. But on the other hand, it means that basically our process is like, sorry, that was my cell phone. What does X person think is interesting? What does Y person think is interesting? Are a couple people at the company really excited about an idea? I don't know if we're full-on Valve, like wheeling desks over to each other. We're not really there yet, but it's definitely a kind of organic process about what people want to work on. And if someone prototypes out a game at home or whatever, and they're like super excited about it, and they bring the prototype in, and a bunch of people are excited about it, then maybe that's the next thing we work on, right?
Do you ever have is there ever a concern that the bigger you get, the more difficult it is to sort of maintain that sort of intimacy in the creative process? And I'm not going to presume to know what your guys' sales have been, but I know that the momentum on Don't Starve especially was very, very good. And how do you sort of manage that spirit when expansion is an inevitable part of sort of success?
Yeah, part of it I think is that we don't expand that large. Like, Don't Starve, probably pre-Don't Starve launch, we were like 25 people, 20 people, and now we're like 40 people. So even though Don't Starve was a success, we haven't like blown up because of it, right? We've tried to keep it somewhat small. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've really seen the long-term impacts of expanding hugely at Klei yet. And maybe we'll never expand to be that big, or maybe we'll try to find a way to figure it out. But I don't think we've really had to grapple with that problem yet, kind of down the line.
All right, so I need, now I have found one of these terminals. Oh, and that guy whose money I stole is awake. I bet he is pissed. He's stretching it out, though. He's stretching it out. He's doing his
We should have made guards extra mad if you steal their money. That would have been smart.
Yeah.
Future patch, possibly. Maybe.
How much power do I have? James, where am I looking to know how much power I have? Oh, no, there it is at the top.
Upper left, yeah.
I have freaking 20 power. This is ridiculous. All right.
You're rich.
Good job, Anthony.
I'm rich.
Going in power.
I'm going to get all of this encrypted data and do all this stuff. All right, wait. Internationale cannot move there. Is Internationale her name, or is that a class?
It's her name.
It's her name.
Yep.
She's
not an international spy.
She was not born with that name, Jace. She was not. That is not.
Yeah, I think her real name is like Maria or something. I don't know.
It's not.
It's in there somewhere.
you just don't. No parent is going to call them international.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Gwyneth Paltrow. No, Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow keeps it biblical or produce based, my friend. That's how she does it.
Or electronics company.
Or electronics company, right? She will name her child Reebok pumps. Okay. So, James, there is a terminal in the room that I left.
Yes.
That I don't think I have accessed fully yet. It is sort of like it's not one of the computers that you get power from, and it's not.
Is it a nano fabricator?
It might be a nano fabricator.
Looks like a shop, aka a shop. Yes.
Oh.
in the common vernacular.
A store to get shit from. Okay, I'm actually going to. So can I beef up my characters at this point?
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go use my ill-gotten gains.
Yeah.
For something nefarious.
I'm gonna put some pumps in the game now. That's it's
I was
like
gonna say,
$100.
Please do. Oh, that would be great. That would be awesome. Something mimic. Why can't you draw on guards' faces? Man,
how many?
Like they fell asleep first at your party.
Yeah, and if you could, how many action points would it take to draw on their face?
Depends on the drawing.
Okay, so Antoine Varcourt, he says drawing penises on subdued guards' faces would be amazing. So how many action points would it cost to draw a penis on a guard's face versus a smiley face?
I feel like a penis is like the lowest. Like that would cost 0 action points. Like if someone falls asleep at a party, you just immediately draw a penis on their face. Like no one even has to do anything.
It's it's the default.
Yeah, there's no thinking involved. It's just done. So it's like I feel like that's 0 action points. If you're talking about they're drawing an elaborate
It's if you draw a penis on one of the guards' faces, that's only 1 action point. But if you want high quality detail,
that's right.
Which I guess the more detailed it was, that would make him angrier. So you would have to have the anger stat in there. See, this is all the sort of stuff that playtesting is supposed to weed out. This is the stuff that you don't want in the game when you ship it. Actually, so James, is there anything that you added into the game at any point that clearly makes it more difficult? What is something that you guys kept in the game or added to the game that made it more complex than it really needed to be? For the sake, because it felt right. Much in the same way that, you said, oh, well, you kept it simple with the doors. Doors don't use an action point because it felt right. What's something that really sort of gums up the works that you kept because it feels good?
Well, one of the common things, there's a lot of stuff here, but I would say the biggest one by far is, a lot of people are used to in stealth games, you take a guard out and that guard's done, right? You're kind of moving on. It's oh, okay, I took that guard out. That guard is now done. I'm continuing in the level. And our game is not like that. Our game, you take a guard out, that's just the beginning of that guard's sort of interest in you. You take a guard out, now he wakes up, he's searching for you. It kind of adds to the texture of the level. And I think that's something that is hard for people to understand at first. And, it takes them a while to get used to, oh, I actually have to worry about the guards that are taken out. Because, in most stealth games, you take a guard out, they're gone. That's it for the rest of the level. So that, combined with the fact that the tasers themselves have a cooldown on them, so you can't use them over and over again too quickly, it makes situations you get into that seem like you would be able to get out of them, Metal Gear Solid, now are super tough in Invisible Ink, right?
Yeah,
so
I literally, as you said this, was spotted and now pinned down by 3 guards.
I'm looking at this right now. This does not look good. This does not look good for you. I'm not gonna lie.
My immediate impulse was I gotta get to a locker. I gotta get to a locker and then hide in the locker and just wait. I'm gonna wait this out.
So this game is it's intentionally less sandboxy than Metal Gear Solid, right? It's intentionally less oh, you can't just run through with a machine gun and mow down everyone. You can't, you actually have to do it. With some planning and some finesse. Even if there are different play styles, they're sort of all within the game systems, and none of them just fully break the game, right?
Alright, the enemy will turn as you move. Okay.
Oh, yeah, so that guy will,
Go, Decker, no!
You get zapped. Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Pick her up, lady! No, don't steal Decker's stuff. Don't steal his things. Oh no. Oh geez, I'm in a sticky position here. Okay. They're gonna go get him, aren't they?
They'll kind of hang out near his body, but they'll leave him alone for now.
They'll leave him alone for now. Okay.
Well, they're not gonna like go like execution style him. No.
I'm gonna go WWJD here. What would James do?
Ooh.
And so James, how would I get out of this sticky situation?
Well, I go into the Lua code and I write in, you know, I can't shoot anymore.
All right.
In the console commands, you know.
What would I do? No, I mean, so like the quickest option here is just a rewind, right, and never get caught in the first place.
Right.
Like it never happened. But if you wanna stay with this timeline, then you probably want to hide for a bit, let the guards disperse, and then go try to pick up Deckard and drag him to the elevator. Probably your best move.
All right, I'm International. Everybody, all those guards are like, "Why would your parents name you that? That's a ridiculous name. What's gonna happen when you apply for a job that's not spy?" Branded for life. It's just gonna be really awkward.
I think that might be worse than a face tattoo.
It's worse. Yeah, it's automatically worse than a face tattoo. Oh man, they are just in here and they are pissed.
Oh yeah, they're chilling.
Oh,
they should.
Man.
They'll move about eventually.
Out of curiosity, how did you guys hand draw all of the animation for the characters? Like the little animations in the face portraits are awesome. It
Nice.
adds so much character, and it's so simple. How does all that work?
The face drawings are our pipeline is Flash. It's all Flash. The face drawings are hand animated, I think, frame by frame, and or maybe with some keyframes. And then the world animation is all symbol based. So you know we have like an arm or a leg or a torso, different builds for each character, and then so like all the female player characters have the same build, and then they kind of inherit different animations based on how they look and what guns they're using, what weapons they're using. So, yeah, it's all Flash based and kind of slightly symbol based, and we've just sort of learned how to work in that pipeline really well because we've been using it for a very long time.
Okay, Seo Shant asks if you have had any thoughts about putting this on Good Old Games Galaxy's platform.
Oh yeah, that thing.
That was a response.
Didn't that thing just come? Didn't it like release really recently?
It's brand
the beta
new.
was announced on Tuesday, the open beta.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. We might. I mean, I'm not the business guy, so I'm not sure.
Right.
I literally don't know.
Okay.
We might be simultaneously releasing it though. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know we have
talking
humble
about
stuff lined up. Sorry, you gotta go.
Okay, so we've talked about early access and everything, but how would this game have been different if you wouldn't have released it on early access? If you would have just called in playtesters to have them do things exclusively instead of putting it out early on Steam?
Yeah, it would have been really, really different. How exactly would it have been different? It would have been, I think we wouldn't have realized as quickly how difficult it was and how hard it was to understand. I think we would have maybe gone further down the rabbit hole of like, oh, let's make this game super complicated, right? And make it like super crazy and all this stuff. And I think we managed to strike a nice balance because of early access between depth and accessibility. And I think if we hadn't had early access, we probably would have gone way further down the depth rabbit hole, and maybe it would have been impossible to play for like everyone, basically.
Oh my god! All right, so I am now. If anybody is not like being able to follow what's going on in the action, I've picked up Schmuck who got himself shot, and by got himself shot I mean I got him shot. And I am carrying him around. I stole one of those stupid guards. I stole his money and his security card, and now I'm trying to get out of here. So James, the question is if I find the elevator,
yeah,
without getting the objectives, because there's another computer terminal that I need to get to here.
You got the main objective.
Oh, I got the main objective, so I can just get the hell out.
That's right, yeah.
Alright, we're gonna get the hell out of here. That's what's gonna happen. Alright, that answers that. And I've unlocked all kinds of things. So there are all these tempting briefcases and safes, but I'm just not going to touch them. In the interest of living. So these levels are not pre-planned. These are randomly generated, right?
They're procedurally generated, yeah.
Procedurally, yeah. You guys like your procedurally generated stages.
We do, yeah.
What do you have a preference? Do you like a handcrafted game more than a procedurally generated game? What does a procedurally generated game offer that the other doesn't? You know, what are your feelings on this thing?
Yeah, I don't really consider them either like better than the other. I think they're tools for design, but yeah, in my mind, procedurally generated games, this game works really well procedural, and so does Don't Starve, because they both have a heavy emphasis on systems design. So it's all about the way different systems overlap and different systems sort of like help each other, right? So you end up with a lot of stuff that, you know, two systems are more than the sum of their parts. They end up layering in a way that creates more depth than either of them do alone. And I think that's when it's really good to have a procedural game, because then you can just rely on your systems to make the game interesting, and you don't have to have, you know, set pieces and beautiful content and super well-designed levels. So, you know, I think, yeah, for systems layering, I really like procedural. And for you know, if we were doing a more straightforward kind of story-based approach, I think linear would have been the right way to go with this thing.
Yeah, you know, Duke says here in the chat, does anyone else feel like rogue style is an easy way out of designing good maps? And I think that there are cases where that accusation can be made, and it's true. But I think, like you said, James, like, it's a tool. It's a tool like any other in your chest, and it all really depends on how you use that tool. Right. You know, like this does not feel like, and given I've only played a couple of maps at this point, so you know, my opinion is coming from limited experience, but this still feels like a lived-in space to me. This feels this doesn't feel inorganic by any means.
Nice. Well, yeah, you know, we do a lot of passes over when the procedural generation. There are a lot of, basically we tried to make it like, okay, if I were designing a level, how would I think about designing it? And then let's have the computer learn how to do that, right?
Right.
Let's take it and teach it the rules and teach it what's good gameplay and what's bad gameplay. And I mean, that all sounds very fancy. You know, we're not like developing a full AI for learning how to design levels, but there is a lot of like, you know, just sort of mirroring the design process in code and sort of teaching the computer how to think like a designer.
Well, why do you think that players sometimes have, like, why is there an element of your audience that they inevitably feel that way? You know, why do they have that perspective of like, oh, well, this isn't going to feel as unique and crafted as it might were it not using procedurally generated levels? And like, and what do you do to avoid that feeling? Like you said, you know, teaching your computer to make sure that it's building the thing that the way you want it built, but how do you avoid the pratfalls?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of legitimacy to that idea, and it is really hard to get procedural levels that feel really good. I think you just, you know, some people are not going to dig it, but I think for most people who are on the fence, it's like, you know, you have to rely really heavily on an atmosphere, right? On music, on sound, on the stuff you can craft, the little details of the level, the little areas within your procedural levels, and make sure it feels like a space and a place, and not just like a grid, you know? And I think if you focus really well on the details and the stuff you can control within the procedural development, you can get a decent shot at having the best of both worlds, of having the kind of procedural replayability, and also having the sense of like, oh, this is actually like, I understand this is this corporation, it's got all these interesting details, it's got music and sound, it's got, you know, the guards all look different and they say different things, right?
All right, you guys have to forgive me. I'm trying to figure out what the hell to do. Stupid Decker carrying around his limp ass, and now I've really got to figure out how to get the hell out of this one. Security level 3. I am pinned down. I'm gonna.
Yeah, we need to find the exit too. We just don't know where that is,
I know. So I think I have an idea of. I know where to head for the exit.
All right.
And now the question is just how. All right, neural disruptor. Maybe.
That sounds.
Right, yeah,
that sounds
I got
painful.
It. I'm going to attempt to stab this guard with electricity. And stabbed with electricity. I can't believe that worked out.
Nice.
All right. James,
So
your game is making me feel good, dude. I like it.
Well, you're figuring out, where and how to get to the exit is, Anthony. I have a question for both of you guys. What was the first procedurally generated game that you guys played, and how do you think that it has changed since then? For me, it was Excitebike 64. There was an endless sand dune thing where you could just ride forever and do tricks and stuff.
Wow.
And
Nice.
it was kind of weird. Like, I was kind of enamored because you could just ride forever in a straight line, and there would be always kinds of different sand dunes and stuff, things like that. Looking back on it now, it was pretty basic. So now that we have things like Minecraft, we have the upcoming No Man's Sky, we have other games. So what do you guys think of how procedurally generated content has come, and what was the first game that you played that used it?
Ooh. It's an interesting question, man. Yeah, James, after you, please, go
Sure,
first.
sure. Yeah, what was the first game I played that used it? I would say the first game I played that used it was probably NetHack. And I like NetHack, but I would say the first game I played that I was really into that was procedural, that I was like, wow, you can really do interesting stuff with this, was probably Diablo 2. I would say Diablo 2 gave me my first glimpse of like, oh, procedural can be combined with crafted content to make something that's really, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways we're still there. I mean, I don't think it's actually come that far from that, what Diablo 2 did. We'll see, right? I mean, people are trying to do stuff like No Man's Sky. Minecraft clearly is a huge step in a different direction that's amazing. I mean, I remember very, very well seeing my first like Vista in Minecraft, and exploring Minecraft landscape, and that was another huge moment for me. And yeah, I mean, I think that people are discovering that procedural isn't, it's not, you can't make a game procedural and that's it, right? There has to be some level of design there. There has to be something. You're using procedural to do something, right? And in my mind, that's where we're going with it. People are realizing more and more like, oh, procedural, Minecraft is great because it takes procedural and it makes these beautiful 3D environments out of them, and they're all super malleable, and you can take anything and destroy it and make it to use anything else. And to me, that's the beauty of procedural stuff and the way it's evolved. What's
James,
up?
I'm gonna get the hell out of here.
You're gonna do it, dude. I'm looking at this. This is amazing.
I lived.
How'd we do this?
Oh my God! Why aren't I dead? Why aren't I dead? Your game, your schmuck guards, just
Yeah.
No, actually, they really put the kibosh on me pretty good.
Nice. Good
But
work.
I
Holy
got it
cow.
out. I got out. That is
Holy
that is
cow.
awesome, man.
Awesome.
Deeply satisfying. Deeply satisfying. I was sorry to interrupt your reverie about
No.
the sort of miracle of looking at Minecraft, and I know exactly.
That's all I got. I'm done. I'm done with what I want to say.
Well, like the thing is I completely agree. Like, Minecraft especially. There was that like I remember reading about it before I saw it and thinking to myself, well, that doesn't sound very interesting. That doesn't sound like something I want to play. And then I actually saw a video of it running, and it's mind blowing the first time you see it. It's just it literally blew my mind.
Me too.
Taylor Belby, congratulations, you beat the mission on beginner. Shut up! Yeah, come on, man. I messed up and was able to like actually escape with my skin.
No difficulty shaming in Invisible Ink.
Oh god, the worst. So the very first procedurally generated game I ever saw is Rogue. It's the original. It's the game on which all roguelikes are named. And I remember a buddy of mine who's a programmer was like, "You gotta check this thing out, man. It's like this is the oldest of the old school." And he showed me what it was like to play, and I was like, "Well, that's awful, and I will never ever play it again." It was literally like the video game equivalent of, well, how would you like to play the original Dragon Quest? It's just as restrictive, but it's uglier, and it's basically just going to kick you directly in the pelvis repeatedly for the entire time that you're playing. Well, do you ever succeed? No. You will never succeed. The only version of success is that you survive for longer than you have before.
Nice.
And I kept trying rogue style games back when. Like, I would play like Shiren the Wanderer. Which was, if anybody is unfamiliar with Shiren the Wanderer, think a rogue-like Zelda for the old Super Nintendo. And, they put them out on Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and all those. And I sort of was always like, ugh. And so, over the years, that was my concept. So it was my distrust of randomly generated level design came from an antiquated perspective. And I think that, like, a gamer of a certain age, if you came up in the 80s and 90s, I think that is probably part of why you might think poorly on randomly generated design. Like, if you think of things like Rogue rather than Diablo, that probably sours you. But, like, that's not the overwhelming majority of people who play video games at this point. So I will say that the thing that really kind of turned my head, and this isn't me being a kiss-ass, the thing that sort of changed my mind about randomly generated game design was Don't Starve. Don't Starve was the game that really, for one of the first times, felt crafted in a way that no other randomly generated game I had played did. And it very, very much changed my mind. And, I'm not saying that I to go back again, reiterate a point that we've already discussed a couple of times, it is a tool. It's a tool. And if you use it badly, like any other tool, you're going to make a bad product. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not about the tool itself. Tim, tell me more about this Excitebyte 64 mode, because I've never heard of this. Is it actually fun?
No. Like, it was cool at the time. Like, it was cool at the time because Excitebike was very much a physics-based motorcycle game. And it was just cool because you could just ride it. Like I said, you could ride in a straight line forever. If you found this really cool hill, like, it was all sand dunes, and there would be bonfires and stuff. But if you found like a cool area, you could just tool around and do tricks and stuff. It was really relaxing.
That sounds kind of nice. It sounds like a desert golfing. 10 years ago.
Yeah. It was really good. Like, I don't know that. Can we talk about how awesome that game's racetracks were? Because those levels were fantastic in that game.
They really were, yeah.
Can we talk about...
I was also a big Mario Kart 64 guy. I played a lot of that, too.
Oh, God. That's so good. Still so good. So, all right. This is obviously, like, you're just shipping a new game, so you're not ready to talk about future projects, but one of the things that I have been predicting for years, James, is finally happening. And this isn't like an impressive prediction. I'm not boasting about some sort of skill. It was just inevitable.
Yes, you are.
Nope.
I'm excited.
This is not a backdoor brag. This is not a backdoor brag because...
Let me hear it.
Team Butts.
Team Butts. Team Butts for days.
We're back to brag.
So, I have been saying since 2008 that I am deeply excited about the moment in game design when low polygon graphics become the new fashion. And it's inevitable. It's just the march of time. It's people who grew up with something are inevitably going to become creators with themselves. And nostalgia is going to kick in. It's why there was a boom of pixel-based, indie games from 2006 to now, and we're finally on the cusp Like, there are starting to be projects where people are like, yeah, it's going to look like freaking Resident Evil 1 on the PlayStation. It's going to be really rough character models, 240p resolution. This is the way it's going to be. Do you have any interest in making a low poly game? And